Dana, this one's for you. What was that voice? I'm so excited to share my thoughts on Sundress by Benjamin Moore.
So excited! So excited!
This is a paint color that's part of their Color Stories palette that I truly am a big fan of, and you should be too, because it's awesome. I became an even bigger fan of it when I realized you don't need to get it made in Aura paint anymore. All these colors are available in their other products. Big win. If you want to get Sundress in Regal, you can get it in Regal. It's great. With the weather getting nicer outside, I'm spending a lot of time outdoors. This is really a paint color that manages to lift my spirits, just like the sun. Get ready for some color analysis, as well as a color palette custom made by me for you, my faithful viewers. Welcome to Color Quickie, where we talk about a paint color, break it all down, give you some ways you can use it in your home, and then color pairings that go with it, including trim colors. Super important. So like I mentioned at the top of the video, this episode was requested by one of our esteemed channel members. So if you want to support us even more than you already do, click that join button to help bolster what we do on this channel and beyond. And there is more to come, just you wait.
What does he mean?
Sundress is described as the feeling of a line-dried, crisply starched cotton dress. I guess that cotton dress was kind of warm and beige and yellowy, because that's the gist of what I get here. Definitely a bit more nuanced than that, of course, because the CSP colors, they're formulated differently than your traditional colors. They often include a ton of different colorants, sometimes 5 or 6. So really, there's a lot more than meets the eye with Sundress and any of the other colors in that collection. You can even check the Benjamin Moore website, look at the different shades of that color, and even similar colors, and they all kind of share this somewhat green-leaning feel. Personally, I don't find Sundress to be all that greeny, really. There is enough of a buttery orange aspect to help balance things out. So even though there's technically some green mixed in there, probably, it's going to be the smallest amount compared to the other similar greeny colors on that page. And part of that is because of the lightness of it. With a lighter color, you're going to have less colorant in it normally, and the light reflectance value of Sundress is 75.68. So out of 100, it's reflecting that amount of the light that hits it, making it pretty light overall. You could potentially pass it off as an off-white, and many people might do that, but I do find it's a little too saturated with that creamy warmth for me to call it a white. It is kind of off-white-ish, but even still, that's a stretch. In a lot of ways, I do think this is a fun, very current alternative to a traditional beige or stark white. It's more beige with a twist. I want to get to color pairings in just a second, but before I do, I wanted to touch on another beige color within the CSP color line that, if you're a fan of this channel, you'll probably know that I'm a fan of it. It's one that I'm very familiar with. It's called Plaster of Paris, which was one of my main colors that I used in my condo, my last place, and I liked it because of the complexity that it had. And even though it may seem a little more beige than you might expect, it truly pales in comparison to the sheer vibrancy found in Sundress. Much brighter, much more color. So with that said, I do see Sundress more as a lighter accent color for me. It's very playful. To a certain degree, it reminds me of another Benjamin Moore color that I used to use all the time in various projects called Vellum. It used to be a very popular color, and really for the same reasons. It has that lovely positivity to it, that sort of sunshine aspect. Sundress is a much brighter version of Vellum, so I think it's a little more versatile because of that. So right before we get to the rest of the color palette, I want to invite you to subscribe to the Paint People channel. We put out 6 videos a week, all about painting and decorating. And if you've made it this far, I'm assuming you like us enough to press that like button for us too. So these are the color pairings that I enjoy with Sundress at the moment. It could change in a year, we'll see. The first one is Light Breeze 512. This one has an LRV of 73, so another lighter color. Technically, it's a warmer neutral with some cream, but it's very much grayed out and toned down. Just like Sundress, there is an extremely subtle green undertone, but this one does feel kind of balanced and dusty. It's a great muted passive color, and I like it in those areas of your home where you don't need a big statement. So kind of a clean slate color. It's not totally boring and just lifeless. You do have some green, but it's not going to feel jarring or anything. It's super Super chill color. Next up, we have glazed green, $4.99. Another color kind of in that upper echelon of lightness. This one's around 66, so a tad darker than the first two, but what it lacks in brightness, it makes up for in color. Not the brightest and most dynamic pistachio green ever, and even though it's a little soft and understated, I love that cool, crisp green, which will feel even more emphasized in conjunction with Sundress and Light Breeze. I love their interaction altogether. I also wanted to keep the first two color pairings more gentle in their coloration because of the energy that Sundress was already bringing. The good news is all three colors are in that lighter category of wall paint choices, and this gives them more versatility, especially in the areas that aren't very well lit in your home. I really see them being used interchangeably, to be honest, with Sundress being that clear accent choice. Going back to glazed green, I low-key love this color on kitchen cabinets, or even like furniture in general, especially paired with natural wood tones. So pretty. All right, time to get dark.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
We got Fairview Taupe HC85 as our next color pairing, and this one is definitely dark territory, around an 18 LRV. This is the darkest color pairing for sure, but what you do have here is a nice grounded deep color, which Benjamin Moore describes as a combination of charcoal, walnut, and moss. I definitely agree with the first two, but I think the moss description can be a bit misleading. I get a touch more of a chocolatey red undertone, kind of like a hot cocoa. That's how I describe it. Although there perhaps is some green in there to prevent it from feeling overly pinky. To put it plainly, it's just kind of a dark taupe that favors the dark chocolate brown side of things a little bit more than gray. So more walnut than charcoal. Maybe I guess a dash of moss. I'll give it to them. What about baseboard colors and your doors and your frames? I got two of them, and the first one, if you know me, is gonna crack you up. If you want a white trim color in this palette, just maybe go with Chantilly lace, I guess, okay? This is a color that I try not to recommend too often because it is the brightest white that Benjamin Moore makes, and that draws a lot of attention from people that, you know, that's obviously the one they need to pick then. You don't need to pick it, but I kind of like it in this case because it's very clean, very bright. It's gonna be very punchy and it'll stand out against all the other colors, especially the darker ones. But if you do want a trim color that's a little bit deeper and darker and a little more kind of on the nose when it comes to pairing with Sundress, I'd recommend something like Dijon. It's a color that's almost an ambery mustard that coordinates really nicely with Sundress specifically, but I also like how it works with the other colors in the palette for a little more of an artsy feel on your trim. You want to see all these colors together? Well, here you go. Here's the palette. What do you think? Please tell me. I want to know. And we have another color palette right over here for you. Let's keep it going.